I'm Murtz Jaffer here in LA, and I am with Bruno Gunn, who plays Brutus on the Hunger Games Catching Fire. Very excited to talk to you. Can you tell me about how you got involved with the Hunger Games?
It was a casting call. It was an afternoon casting call here in LA, and it was a day of casting call. I had like maybe 3 hours to get ready for it, and prepared, did as much research as I could, jumped in, and here we are.
Now, did you read the books, or if it's a day off, I'm presuming you probably didn't have time.
Yeah, I didn't. I hadn't read the books.
Oh,
I'd seen the.
See, there's people that would kill for that part. I've memorized the books.
Yeah, of course, right. And I had seen the movie, did not read the books. So when I got the call, it was, I had a few hours just to try to get as much information and knowledge about this second installment of Catching Fire, of Hunger Games, yeah.
When I see you with this bald kind of leather jacket look, the character of Brutus, I thought it was just perfect. Bruno Gunn equals Brutus. Is that how they felt too?
I feel like the fans really were excited and happy with the choice that Lionsgate made, and of course I think Lionsgate nailed it.
Obviously Brutus is known in the sphere for throwing spears. Did you have to do a lot of that?
Yeah, there was 2 months of choreographed martial arts, preparation for this. With the skit, with the spear, and all kinds of good things. Yeah.
Do you find that the Hunger Games, is it real? Could you ever see a world where the Hunger Games becomes a legitimate thing, where people just kill each other? Because with reality TV, I feel like the envelope continually gets pushed.
I think the envelope does get pushed, but Murtz, I hope that's not the case. I like to think we were a bit more involved in that, man.
Well, remember you heard it in 2013 that I think the Hunger Games are coming.
Yeah, again, I certainly skew the other way with that. But it's definitely a great parallel of life. I mean, it's a survival game. And these tributes are thrown into this arena, and it's, survive or die.
Why do you think that they have such a rabid fan base? What is it about it? I know people that just, their whole room is decorated in Hunger Games stuff. They, go to the premiere. They line up, 4 days early. Why does it elicit such a strong reaction?
Well, credit to the fans, first of all, because they're passionate and they're very well-read. They're more than just moviegoers. They're book readers, and they're smart fans. And then to answer the question, I think it's all, there's the main star of this whole thing is Suzanne Collins. That's why they are the way they are. It's Suzanne Collins. It's her writing. It's these fans pouring over every word of hers. This love triangle, and for me, it's about Katniss and this female heroine who's strong and who doesn't need a man in her life and is still out there kicking ass.
I obviously watched the movie several times, and the one big question that I have is, I really wanted to see, how Brutus won his first games. I believe that, he won the 55th edition. Did they give you any backstory? Because I know they didn't really play that up. They were just oh, these are, the all-stars.
Stars, right.
So did they tell you anything about that, or was it just sort of, left up to you to sort of figure out, how did Brutus win? How did he get back as a victor,
Yeah, that was mostly put on me, and that's the best part of my job is creating that backstory and using your imagination as to who this guy is and where did he come from. For me, it was building this backstory with questions of who were his parents, what was their relationship, did he have brothers and sisters, what happened to them, what happened to the parents, how did he, did he volunteer, and why did he volunteer? So there was a lot of building this backstory for him that I went into, and it served me. It served me really well.
And that's actually my next question was going to be, he did volunteer to come back. Why do you think that is? 20 years later, I know it's just strictly opinion, but what's your opinion?
Yeah, it could have been a couple things. First of all, Cato was was a District 2 tribute, and I've always thought that Brutus had helped train Cato for his games, and to see Cato lose, and be the last one to survive, there was, what I wanted to do was put a chip on Brutus's shoulder. I wanted him to have a chip on his shoulder, and so that was maybe one of the influences of leading him to volunteer. And then once we were in the games, he wanted to team up with Katniss, and she shot him down, and hey, there's another big chip on his shoulder. So, there was a couple of different things there that I wanted to include.
And that's interesting too. The fact that like it was Katniss that did it. Katniss is the one that I think presumably killed Cato, or at least it was a combination of her and Peeta. So was there no like when he's like sitting there holding her hand, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like she's the one who like killed a guy from your district.
Yeah, exactly, and that was I think fuel for the fire. Mm-hmm. That was having that happen, and again going through the games with a chip on your shoulder and vengeance.
The status of Brutus is left somewhat ambiguous in the film. Like in the books, it's very clear that he dies. He's like probably the last one to die. So what are the chances that we will see you in Mockingjay?
I'm going to leave that up to you and everybody else to find out. But I'll say this much: they are really true to the books, and that's what makes us so special. Is that Lionsgate has done a really nice job of keeping it true to the books.
You've had so many different roles, CSI, Sons of Anarchy, Bad Teacher. Do you like this sort of like tough guy, this like assassin, this like Jason Statham kind of like killer? Is that who Bruno Gunn is now?
Well, I think who doesn't like to be a bad guy and get away with it, right? You get to play these roles where we get to be a bad guy, and it's okay to be a bad guy. So I enjoy it. I enjoy that, and I certainly am looking forward to more opportunities to do it.
What would you say is the role that you're the most proud of? I mean, obviously I like Catching Fire, but is there one that sort of spoke to you that you've done in the past? And it could be Hunger Games if it is.
I think this is pretty much right now one of my favorite and most endearing for me that I got to really sink my teeth into and have a chance to explore. So I definitely think Brutus is right up there. There's some roles that you're just built for and that you're meant to play. And I had a friend 6 years ago who said, someone right now is writing your role. And I read Brutus and I was like, wow, this is it. This is my guy. So, I think this Brutus character is it right now.
So your guy is a guy that likes to kill children.
I think he's a competitor. Is what he is. I think he's a competitor. Mm-hmm. I think he's a fierce competitor. He has a warrior mentality. And that was what I wanted to bring to the screen.
Now, I know that you said when you went on the day of audition, you didn't have a chance to read the books. I'm sure you have gone back and read them now. Yeah. So what do you think about them? Do you feel like you were true to what you read without having read it when you landed the part?
Yeah, yes, I do. I think what I brought into that room, and that's why they obviously, I would think, had chosen, pick me. I'm sure there's 1,000 other reasons. But it was kind of what I wanted to do. I thought he was a somewhat quiet and fierce warrior, and that's what I brought into the room.
What was it like working with the cast? Because, ultimately the ones that came back for this movie are they skew a little bit younger, So did that come into play on set? Like, were they sort of like making jokes about like twerking and Twitter, and you were just like, what are you guys talking about? Or was it just like you fit right in?
No, it was a fit right in kind of situation. It was a cast and a set that was very open, very fun, very impromptu, playful, but all at the same time serious. And you can't ask for a better mix of things that happen on the set, and it creates the best setup for exploration and performance.
I asked Sam this at the Canadian premiere. Do you feel like this movie, it's more about the people that surround Katniss? I feel like the first movie was much, all about Katniss, like her story, her victories, her struggles. This one, I really, really like the supporting cast. Or do you still feel like it's Katniss' story with all these other players?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's Katniss' story with the players surrounding her. What I really do like about this is we go a little more in depth into the districts, and we get to see the districts a little more and the people and what's happening in all these districts. And I think that's really interesting. So I think it's a combination of both.
When you're watching the movies, it's sort of like every scene, you're holding your breath. I've never really seen a movie that's like that, the whole way through. Was it like that on set, too, where you're like, oh my gosh, we're shooting this scene, and now we're going to... Like, every scene is just such high intensity.
Yeah, no, it wasn't quite, hold your breath for every scene. Some scenes would take a week or two to shoot, so it wasn't so, here to there. But definitely on the screen, it comes across that way, and it is a breathtaking roller coaster ride.
And I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So you've got some new projects in the works, Barely Lethal.
Yeah, I just wrapped Barely Lethal with Jessica Alba, Sam Jackson, and the talented Haley Steinfeld, directed by Kyle Newman. It's a comedy action, and it's, once again, involved in a movie that has girls kicking ass, and I'm excited for that. I think there needs to be more of these roles where these female heroines are out there leading the way, and these girls who are, and ladies who are going to see these movies should walk out of these theaters inspired by these kind of movies. So I'm excited for Barely Lethal. It's a fun, action-packed movie. And again, it's Haley Steinfeld, Jessica Alba just kicking some ass.
And anything else?
Well, there's some other things coming up in the works. I'm going back to True Blood in January. So, that'll be fun. Anytime you get to throw some fangs in your mouth and run around with your shirt off, what's
right, well,
like,
right? I wouldn't know how that feels.
Yeah, so I'm going back for that in January, and then a couple other things coming up in 2014 that I'm excited to share.
How would Bruno Gunn do on the Hunger Games?
I think I would fare pretty well. I'd like to think I would fare pretty well. Who knows? I might get out there and just fall on my face, but for the most part, I like to think I'd fare pretty well. I'd have a strategy. I think I'd go right after Katniss's, or at least I'd go after those bow and arrows and seize those bow and arrows, because those are pretty prime weapons.
Now, I know we just met, but how do you think Murtz would fare on the Hunger Games?
I think Murtz would stick with Bruno Gunn and be all right.
I mean, you know what I was going to say? I was going to say, what weapon should I use? Maybe I could, talk people to death?
Yeah, that would, I don't know how long you would last doing that, Murtz, but you definitely stick with me. We're going to be all right.
Amazing. Bruno Gunn, thank you so much.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. Yes.